Hello and welcome to the RYLACast, the official podcast of Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. My name is Greg Tepper. My co-host, making his triumphant return to the podcast airwaves. He is the Abbott to my Costello. He is the jelly to my peanut butter. He is two other things that go together that I didn't script out. He's Andrew Josey. Welcome back, buddy.
Well, thank you, Greg. The Travis Kelce to your Taylor Swift.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I really am. I am wearing a red hoodie, which, hey, listen, didn't she put out an album they read?
Two, buddy. Two.
Everything is about Taylor Swift.
Yes.
This is the RYLACast, the official podcast, Camp RYLA Rotary District 5810. We do thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. Coming up here in a moment, we had a great conversation with Bea Bahena-Mathy that you are really going to enjoy coming up here in a little bit. You may notice if you were to just, I don't know, cruise through the archives of the RYLACast that it's been a second since we've done one of these. I didn't even look. This is true. I'm gonna look up the last time we did one.
Yeah, as you look that up, it's like, every season has an off season, right? Like you can't have summer. You need summer and then 3 seasons. And even football takes a break. Formula One takes a break. So this is just an off season in the season of life for the RYLACast.
October 18th.
Okay. So for, as everyone is wincing,
October,
driving
November,
around,
November, December to January, 3 months.
that's a parental leave. That's parental leave.
So to be clear, if you when like previously on the RYLACast, you may remember that I more or less forced Josey to take paternity leave because you were welcoming your beautiful daughter Landry. I can say that now for the first time because
Yes, thank you.
She's here.
She's here.
And so you took some parental leave, and then we did a couple of episodes without you. We did one with Becca Egger and we did one with Hunter Follett. And then I believe because me and Hunter were on a podcast together, the podcast building burned down. And so no, that's not true. But then we basically didn't come back from that. Part of that is my fault because for those who don't know what I do for a living, that's a very busy time of year. I would guess that was a pretty busy time in your life as well.
Yeah, that would be correct. And I will take this time and the floor to apologize publicly to Hunter because I think there were some technical issues with the episode. And full disclosure, I just kind of set it and forget it unless someone tells me there's technical issues with the episode. And so I think there was like a week or week and a half that his episode did not go live because there were some audio issues. I know, it's my fault.
Wow.
We're going to come back stronger.
Well, we are back now. The most important thing is that we have never been more back. This is the most back that we've ever been.
That's a great point.
I want you to think about from a level, from last week. Last week, how back would you say we were?
Probably zero back. No back.
And now think about how much back we are. We're so back.
We are so back. We've taken several steps. We've tripled even where we were last week.
I think that's the way to think about it is, look, every flood starts with a raindrop and splish splash, baby, we're back.
Look at that.
This is the RYLACast, the official podcast, Camp RYLA, Rotary District 5810. We do thank you for spending a little bit of your day with us. Before we get to our special guest, I've got the big segment, Josey, and it's a big segment 3 months in the making. But actually, good.
Just because my brain works in movie quotes and song lyrics and everything, for the last 3 months, every time someone says hello, my brain goes hello and welcome. Yeah. And I've let it slip a couple times and they're like, "What? Welcome to what?" And I was like,
welcome. Hello and welcome to Olive Garden.
Yes.
Or wherever you may be dining. I don't know. I haven't done Olive Garden in a hot minute, but I've seen some ads and I gotta be honest,
It was
Kind of feeling like I need to go there and become family. But all that's to say, I've got the big segment. It's 3 months in the making, which is interesting because I could not do this particular big segment 3 months ago because this is a
okay.
relatively fresh story. Josey, I want to talk about field hockey.
Okay.
Per
I'm locked
usual.
in.
I mean, how many times have we texted over and over? It's usually the group text like me, you, and Whiteman, and I'm like, buddy, I've got some field hockey thoughts, and you're like, geez, like
Yeah,
let it
like
go, dude.
again, cool it with the field hockey thoughts. Save it for Dave Campbell's.
Exactly right. But I want to talk about field hockey. Do you know, um, who the most decorated field hockey team in the NCAA is?
Mm, I don't, but I'm going to say it is Stanford.
That's an excellent guess. And I don't know if that's the case, but I will tell you one program that I know is very, very good.
Okay.
I think actually, let me see if I can find this, or at least the team that has now won 5 of the last 6 national championships.
Hmm.
Actually, I'm comfortable saying that they have the most. Is North Carolina.
No, that was my second guess.
North Carolina is a field hockey powerhouse.
Okay.
And this past year, it was back in, he said to himself, back in, I have this up, November 20th, during our hiatus, North
Mhm.
Carolina won its another field hockey national championship, beating Northwestern, who was the reigning state champion or national champions, I believe,
Mm.
in overtime. It was an overtime shootout. It was a thrilling win for them. Actually, that Northwestern was the team that won in 2021. North Carolina won in 2022 and then 2023. It was a big win for the Tar Heels. You may be wondering, well, why are you bringing this up, Tepper? It's a great question. Besides the fact that I just love it. So they had a new
Right.
coach this year. The previous, I believe, something like 40 years. The previous 40 years, there had been a new head coach. Karen Shelton had been the head coach, the legendary head coach there at North
Mm.
Carolina. And she announced, hey, 2022 is going to be going into the season. She announced, hey, 2022 is going to, or 2020, yeah, 2022 is going to be my last season. I'm going to retire after the end of the 2022 season. And so they had a first year coach at North Carolina who led them to another national championship. That's pretty hard to
That's
do.
yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, pretty good. Her name is Erin Matson. Erin Matson is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And the reason I bring up Erin Matson is that Erin Matson is 23 years old.
The head coach, Aaron Matson.
Head coach Erin Matson is 23 years old. She
Okay.
played on the 2022 team.
Okay.
She played on the 2022 team. And what happened, this is true.
Okay.
This was back in, at the before the season, before the 2022 season, where Coach Shelton had announced she was retiring. Erin Matson, who was a star on the North Carolina team,
Hmm.
went into the athletic director's office and said, I know who you should hire to replace Aaron Shelton. And the person you should hire is me. I should be
Okay.
the coach. She said, she told Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director of North Carolina, I want this job when I graduate. Bubba Cunningham, I think in a pretty cool move, said, all right, I would have never expected you to come say that to me, but I'm glad you let me know. And then he said, go win a national championship and then we'll talk. Okay. Go
Okay.
win a national
Okay.
championship. They'd already won. She had led them to a 2021 state national championship. He said, go win another one and then we'll talk. Well, they did. And then Bubba Cunningham went and hired her. She is the
That
youngest coach in all of Division One sports at 23 years old, and
wow.
led them to a national championship. Now, I think that there's, first of all, that's pretty remarkable.
Incredible. Yes.
I think there's a couple of lessons that I've gleaned from this. One is age isn't everything. Like
Mm.
age isn't everything. I think that we have, and I'm borrowing something from the Daily Coach here, but I think we associate wisdom with age. I think we associate age with wisdom, right? But I think it also works in inverse in the sense of we associate, oh, if you're not so and such, you haven't been around this long, then you don't
Hmm.
have the wisdom that you otherwise can have. Whereas things like emotional intelligence and work ethic and just understanding the subject matter, you don't have to be, X number of years old. And
Right.
so, in the way that age is just a number, which we talk about when we're old, hello, uh, you could talk about when you're young as well. Um, I also think there's something to be said. I think there's a lot of courage in Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director, in making this move. And but I think that there's a lesson there of like you like trust who you know. Like trust who you know. And I think there's a value in just having like being well versed in the way that the organization operates. Like you could just say hiring from
Hmm.
within from a big picture perspective. Hiring from within works. Um, because obviously Aaron Matson was extremely well versed in what mattered to the program, what made the program successful, and yeah, hire from within. There's another interesting thing. Differentiate yourself is the next one. Differentiate yourself. And so obviously when you make the move from player to coach, you got to change a few things. Like you got to act a little differently. For example, she changed her phone number. Change her phone number basically so her last text message exchanges wouldn't be like jokes that she had with her teammates. Um,
Okay.
she moved out of the house that she was sharing with some of her teammates, and she doesn't hang out with her teammates like she did after games anymore. Like she like she reevaluated the boundaries, she reevaluated the elements of relationships that needed to change and made those changes. I think there's something to be said about how important that is when you're doing that. But the biggest thing I think is like I've got actually a poster here that says this exact thing. Shoot your shot.
Hmm.
Like if you're Aaron Matson, the worst thing that can happen to you is that the athletic director just says, well, that's funny. No,
Right.
that's the worst thing that's going to happen to you. Like taking that chance, if you go in there understanding that there's no shame in being rejected, then what do you have to lose? And in another way, I would say that this was a courageous move by the athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, by saying, you know what? I'm going to trust my gut. This is unconventional. I might get roasted for this if this goes awry. If she goes 0-30, I don't know how many games they play in field hockey. Then they may not, like this may blow up in my face, but it's worth taking this risk, trusting someone who has that intimate knowledge of the program. So I think I was fascinated reading about this because when you hear like 23 years old and now a national champion head coach, she's, by the way, I believe NCAA believes that she is the youngest head coach of any Division One team to ever win a national championship, like any of them.
Wow.
So it's pretty remarkable, and I think there's lessons to be learned from the story of North Carolina field hockey coach Aaron Matson.
We should get her on.
Ooh, do you think we could book her?
I think we could book her. I've
I'll
got
write
those
that down.
ACC ties. But no, that's an incredible
She is on
story.
Twitter. I looked that up. Um, and yeah, maybe I'll DM her just see if Aaron Matson wants to hop on the podcast.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Um, Fascinating.
Yeah. So think about what you were doing at 23, but don't feel bad about it. Just take the lessons from this and apply them forward. So anyway,
I
there
do
is
feel
your
bad about it.
there is your North Carolina Field Hockey Minute on the RYLACast. Coming up here in just a moment, we are going to hear from our friend Bea Bahena-Mathy, who we had a great conversation about her RYLA story. Here is our conversation with Bea here on the RYLACast. Oh, Josey,
Oh, Greg.
we've talked about how this is um, the illustrious, much celebrated return of the RYLAcast. People in the streets had just been chanting at us, "Hey, when are you bringing back the RYLAcast?" And the real truth of it is like, yeah, you had a kid and stuff, but mostly we were just waiting for the right guests. And
That,
finally,
yes.
finally, I can say that we got the right guest. We are pleased to be joined on the RYLAcast by Bea Bahena-Mathy. Hi, Bea.
Hi, Tepper and Josey. Glad to be here.
Let's start with this. Yes,
Okay.
B called me Teppy Tep. You
Yes.
should clarify for the people who might be getting
Yes.
some ideas that this is an
Yes.
extenuating circumstance.
This is an extenuating circumstance. I am the only person, dare say, in the
Mhm.
universe,
Mhm.
that is allowed to call you Teppy Tep. I
Yes.
hold that honor really high, and so no one else.
This is an agreement
No
that
one
you and
else.
I came to years ago that you could
Years
be the
ago.
only when we were slaving over a hot newspaper press
That's right.
at camp that you were the only person who was authorized to use what I would consider a silly manifestation of my name. But you've been grandmothered in
Yes.
to
Yes.
yes.
Yes. I am in my
Uh,
grandmother era, so I love that.
And that
uh,
rolled off the tongue too. That was
Yeah.
like, boom. There
no,
was no hesitation.
Yeah.
no, there
No.
isn't. Okay, so B, thanks for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Would you mind starting off by telling us a little bit about your RYLA story?
My RYLA story. My RYLA story starts way, way back in 2006. Josie looked at me when I said 2006
I looked at
because
you when you said way, way back, and
way,
I was
way, way
like,
back. Yeah.
hold on a
Yeah.
second, B.
Well, the campers this year will have been born the year we went to camp. I was recently informed. So that's fun.
Camp's
Oh,
a
That's
humbler
fun.
sometimes.
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So I went to camp in 2006. Funny enough, I was not supposed to go to camp. I was actually interviewed the day after the Garland Rotary Club had made their decisions on who was going, and they had three girls that were going. But I got interviewed the day after, and so someone there liked me enough to call the Garland Lakeside Rotary Club and say, "Hey, we have this applicant, and would you guys like to sponsor her?" And they were like, "Yes." And so a couple weeks later, I was on my way. I had an amazing time at camp. Camp is literally life changing. I know everybody says that, but it really changed my life, and it kept changing my life over the years. So I was in my career already in 2013, and I was still volunteering with RYLA here and there. I hadn't gone back to camp yet for a while, so I was still volunteering, and I was volunteering at the Salvation Army Angel Tree at North Park Mall. And Mark Healy was there the day that I was volunteering, and so was my current boss, Dr. Beth Anderson was there, and Mark was like, "Beth, like, you're in optometry, B's in optometry, like, y'all should meet." And so we met, and like 2 years later, she messaged me and was like, "Hey, like, are you looking for a job?" And I was like, "Actually, I am," which was wild. So I started working with her, and I just kind of snowballed back into getting more into RYLA. I ended up coming back to RYLA in 2016 after like a 10-year gap. And RYLA has just been like slowly getting back into like the forefront of my mind, where it belongs. And I've been doing things here and there with RYLA, volunteering at camp since 2016. And I like love coming back every year. And it's just amazing, like the connections that the people that you meet. Vicki McKinney was my counselor in 2006. And when my husband and I bought our house 2 years ago, she was our realtor, and she like helped us through the whole process and like was just like amazing through that whole thing. And it just like makes me grateful for going, like getting picked way back when and getting to go to camp every time that I've been able to go back.
Well, we are happy to have you back, Bea, and we are closer to having you back at camp for 10 years. You know, you were talking like 2016, like it was just yesterday, and
I know
it's almost been 10 years.
it's almost been 10 years.
So yes, what that is a good segue. What do you do now? What's your day job?
Yeah, so I work at Wiley Eye Center in Wiley, and we also at Eye Center Murphy, which is our sister office. So I wear a couple of hats. So I am the lead optician over both practices. I'm the director of marketing, and I also coordinate community outreach in both practices. So I love being busy, and all my roles keep me busy.
And how would you say RYLA impacts your everyday life, if it does?
Oh, it definitely does. RYLA is a great deal about service above self. And I love serving my community. I love serving the community of Wiley and Murphy, and being able to help them in any way possible, whether it's getting fit for the right pair of glasses or coordinating donations or a sponsorship for the community, the high school's theater program, or, you know, doing ads or volunteering at the different events that the city holds during the year. Like it just, I love serving my community, and a lot of that I learned at camp just to serve.
So then, you know, you mentioned that you guys are still relative youngsters, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
It's tough to hear everybody say way back in 2006. I'm like, yeah, way back in 2006.
Yeah.
But what, you know, that was a minute ago. What keeps you coming back to camp? What keeps you involved in the program?
I think it's that it's what we call like that RYLA like rejuvenation type thing. Like you go back, you see, it's so easy to see so many things in the world today that are not going really well, you know, and then you go to camp and you're surrounded by all of these amazing people with kind hearts and just a joy for life, and you go and you're surrounded by that for a whole week, and you're like come out of it and you're like, you know what, like I can do this, I can be this, I've seen it. And so like you go, you see the good, and then you come out and you want to be the good.
Sorry, I'm excuse me, getting choked up here. Just talking with my friends. Now, sorry, Tep. I almost said it. I almost said it, B, but I withheld.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That would be a violation. It like I wouldn't mind it as much as B would.
I'm saying like that is one honor I hold really dear. So
to sacred
don't
bond.
do it, Josey.
I know, and I almost did it, and I was like, you know what? This is one thing B has, and I'm just we're gonna keep it that way.
It's okay because I still call you Andrew sometimes, right? Like
I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, well, I knew him when he was Andrew. It's so funny. I'll tell you the story real quick. So I knew him in 2006 when he was still Andrew, right? So when I came back, you know, a couple of years later, I was at a Christmas party, and I was coming back into RYLA, and everybody's like, "Oh, 2006, you know Josey," and I was like, "No," and they're like, "Yeah, he was a camper in 2006," and I was like, "Oh, well, I personally don't know him." And I remember we were at a RYLA Christmas party, and Josey walks in, and they're like, "Oh, there's Josey," and I was like, "You mean Andrew?" And they're like, "No, he's Josey," and I was like, "Oh, okay, then I know Josey. I know him."
Worlds collided for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Well, now comes the time in our where we ask our esteemed guests to plug something. So we will give you the floor, B, to plug book, podcast, maybe like a town's famous pedal car race, something like that.
Yes, yes. Wiley does have a very famous pedal car race.
That's some
We
wily
sponsor a
humor,
car.
Tep.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they do the pedal car race for the kids. The kids get in these little pedal cars and then they race on Main Street. It's so cute.
Okay. You learn something new every day about what's going on in your Fairburg. Okay. Wiley's got it going on, especially when
Wiley's
it comes
got
to
it
pedal
going.
cars.
That's right. Pedal cars, bluegrass on Ballard. They got it. I've started a bunch of books lately, so I haven't finished any. But the year is young. The year is young. But I've been on kind of like a path of self-care. I think in serving our community, serving our families, and serving others, we forget about ourselves. And so I've been reading a lot of books about like self-care and taking time to take care of yourself. So I think my plug is like, take care of yourself, because if you're not okay, then you can't take care of anybody else, which is like what we love to do, right? So take that walk, have a cup of tea, take a bubble bath. Like, it doesn't have to be huge, but self-care. Remember that you matter as well, and so you take care of yourself as well.
That's a fantastic plug, terrific. And I want to make sure that for the audio audience, which is literally everybody except the people on this present call, B is drinking a cup of tea right now. So she is very much practicing what she preaches.
I am. My dad actually gave me this, and I love it because it says like make good things happen.
Oh.
And so I always want us to make good things happen.
Well, B, you've made good things happen by being on our podcast. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys for having me.
There she is, Bea Bahena-Mathy, joining us here on the RYLACast. A good book, I would say, for the little old RYLACast.
Excellent book.
Nice return here for us, as we were able to get her, and she was drinking tea, which she didn't spill any of the tea.
Ooh,
I'm cool.
We are full of one-liners coming back from our hiatus.
And here to bring us home, I've only had 3 months to think of clever things to say on the podcast. Lower those expectations for next episode, folks. But before we get to that, let's go to Josey to bring us home.
Well, thank you, Greg. Lower those expectations for now, as I bring you home. So this is a quiz, pop quiz, Tep. What do you end the broadcasts with in your one of your big boy jobs? Maybe both your big boy jobs, whenever you're on the air. What's one of the last things you do?
On TV?
On TV.
At the very end of every broadcast, and I've done this for 10 years now, I usually, if anybody watches me on television, I usually just have a mess of papers on the desk. I will take one of the papers. I have a Sharpie and I write the words "be kind" on it. I hold it up to the camera. Then I crumple it up and I throw it at the camera. I've had the camera like twice. I've had to apologize. What I've started doing this year is that when I miss the camera, I start apologizing to the photographer. So it's normally like Danny or Rich or one of those guys who are actually working the camera. I usually, if you watch carefully, I usually mumble under my breath like, "Sorry, Danny." Anyway, but that's what I do. Be kind.
Well, thank you. That's the answer I was looking for. So the show's totally scripted. There's an article I found on It's a New York Times article. It seems like there's several different variations, but the title is from September 2nd, 2022 by Catherine Pearson, The Unexpected Power of Random Acts of Kindness.
Mm.
New research shows small gestures matter even more than we may think. And I got thinking about
Mm.
this. I recently went to old San Antonio. Um, I was walking through the airport and I stepped out of the restroom. And as I turned left, there was one of those neck pillows that was on the ground. And I took a shot that it belonged to the woman and her husband who were walking, I don't know, 15 feet ahead of it. And I am not one to insert myself into public situations. I like to stay in my lane. And
Hmm.
I spoke up and I said, "Ma'am, um is this yours?" And she said, "Oh, it is. I
Mm.
must have dropped it. And it's a neck pillow. I'm sure you've flown, Greg. Seems like neck pillows would be very comfortable, and I would be very upset if I brought a neck pillow and lost it." And I
Hmm.
had just a quick chat with her and her husband, and she said, "My husband wants to wear it everywhere we go." And I said, "No, I'm just going to clip it to my suitcase." And he did not hear that interaction. So then it was a little comical when he said, "I want to wear it walking through the airport, but she won't let me." Um, and all that to say that this article I found very interesting after that interaction. And the gist of this new study is that the power of small gestures of kindness are underestimated by the performer. And so there's a series of experiments that varied in design and participants. And one example is graduate students were asked to perform thoughtful acts of their choosing, like giving a classmate a ride home from campus, baking cookies, buying someone a cup of coffee. Um, and another, researchers recruited, almost 100 participants uh, for weekends at an ice skating rink in Chicago, and they were given a hot chocolate from a snack kiosk, and they were told they could keep it or give it to a stranger as a deliberate act of kindness.
Mm.
And the three-quarters of people who gave away their hot chocolate were asked to guess how big in quotes, the act of kindness would feel to the recipient on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being small, 10 very large, and then predict how the recipient would rate their mood. And then the recipients were then asked to report how they actually felt using the same scales. And in that experiment and across all the others, the people doing the kind thing consistently underestimated how much it was actually appreciated by the
Hmm.
receiver. And so I think that's a fascinating take, that what keeps people from doing a random act of kindness, the overthinking of, is somebody going to think I want it reciprocated? Maybe this is just too much. Maybe I'm going to, maybe, and overthink it for whatever reason. Then they miss the moment that just doing that simple act of kindness, however small you think, is going to pay dividends to that person receiving. And the article goes on to talk about, how kindness, spikes your dopamine, gets the cortisol flowing, all the good feelings. Um, but I just found that part interesting. And there's another quote in here that talks about a clinical psychologist by the name of Tara Cosino. Um, and she says she's found that kindness can be a really hard sell, and that people desire kindness, yet often feel inconvenienced by the thought of being kind.
Mm.
And I think that's just a really convoluted way to just say, like, I think we all need a hug sometimes from each other. And don't be afraid to just be kind.
I think yeah, this is a fascinating article. I've got it up here. And first of all, I think that if I'm like, for Catherine Pearson, who wrote this for the New York Times, this feels like a really like gratifying article to write. I don't know, this
Right.
this feels like this is great. I like being around this and telling me things like that are gonna make like the world a little bit better. And there's a couple things. One, I think that it's really interesting to note that like what you said was like by the actor doing the kind thing, it's underrated
Mhm.
by them. In that the sense, and that kind of makes sense in my brain too, of like if somebody buys me a cup of coffee, I'd be like, man, that's awesome. Like, thank you so much. That's awesome. And yet, the idea of me buying somebody a cup of coffee, I'm just like, yeah, okay, I could do it. Like, whatever. Like, what's the big deal? You know,
Right.
when
Exactly.
really the reality, like, not, I think both anecdotally and apparently scientifically, is if I give somebody a cup of coffee, it's going to make me feel a lot better than I think it's going to,
Hmm.
you know?
Exactly.
The other thing you mentioned was the thing about where she had the quote, that quote you had of like they think it's like it's a hard sell, and they think it's being inconvenienced. That's why I think the idea of like a small thing is so important. It's like, yes, of course, giving $50,000 to a charity does feel like a big ask, but
Right.
just writing somebody a quick note and telling them that you think they're doing a great job is essentially free and wouldn't take you that long. And you can get a similar, you know, feeling, whether you want to view that as just like your heart feeling warm or you want to view it in a technical way of like, oh, a dopamine hit. Uh, you can get a similar thing just by that. And so I think that the headline is important of saying just like the random acts of kindness, especially like small gestures. That's important.
Yeah, yeah, I use the example of the airport interaction, not to bump up my kindness points, but I'll never see those people again. It's
Yeah.
I'm not buying a coworker a cup of coffee that I've got to worry about. Will it be reciprocated? No, so small acts of kindness pay dividends. To your point.
There you go. Well, excellent, Josie. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. I would not have found this because I think it's like a year and a half old, but it's very, very good.
Yeah, it's a little old, but and I can't we may have talked about it before,
I don't
but
think so.
the good news is there's no way to ever know
No, there's
what
absolutely
we
no way to
talked
ever
about.
know. Certainly don't listen to every episode of the podcast and roast us if we have talked about it. Thanks, Josie. That was excellent.
Thanks, Greg.
I want to invite everybody. Here's the part where we plug some stuff. Go to our website, ryla5810.org, and check out all the cool stuff we got going. We're getting ready for camp in the summer. I believe counselor applications are due like by the end of this sentence.
Like
So
Thursday, yeah.
yeah, so get that in. You want to do that. Staff applications are up as well, and yeah, I'm excited. The process is already underway. Um, and yeah, is there anything else we need to talk about from a nuts and bolts keeping the trains on time
Oh, look at
perspective?
that. Look at that, Greg. Just a shout out to the Rotary Clubs of District 5810.
Mm,
We kicked off camp officially
yeah,
this past Saturday. You were there at the RYLA kickoff, RYLA roundup. Pretty good turnout.
very good
Um,
turnout, man.
yeah. So just shout out our friends.
Hmm.
I get club coordinator and RYLA chairperson confused in my head. They
I do
are
too.
different people. We're both critical for what we do here. Um,
I always just think like important person. I'm
yes,
like you're important.
yes.
So yeah, because if I have to get those together, it's not going to work for me. Yeah. So shout out to all of them, and yeah, I believe that's going to do it for this triumphant return of the RYLAcast, and especially Josie on the RYLAcast. Thanks for spending some time with us. Please rate this podcast 5 stars and comment on it and tell us what you like about it. And
Hmm.
tell a friend about it. And here, with an antiquated way of telling a friend about the RYLAcast, is Josie.
Well, thank you, Greg. The name of this thing escapes me, but It's the little. It's you make it out of paper, and it's an audio medium,
Cootie
but
catcher.
you do a cootie catcher. Thank you.
Yep, I knew exactly what you were doing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Greg. Antiquated for sure, right? Go ahead and make a cootie catcher. And if you're looking for like the numbers and the letters, RYLA, that's 4 of them.
Beautiful.
It's
Love
perfect right there. And then under in sort of the results as you do the cootie catching with a friend, stranger, listen to the RYLAcast should be on all of them. They'll never know.
No, this is to be clear, we want you to make a cootie catcher as a trap.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Correct.
That's what we wanted to do. Josey, thanks for your courage.
Thanks, Greg.
Talk to you next time on the RYLACast.